everyone, and happy Monday. Buon pomeriggio, as they say in Italy. Welcome to virtual day trip to wine country. I'm Sam Kimball from New York Wine Events, and today we are going to Italy, specifically to Castellina in Tuscany, which is located in one of the most famous wine and grape growing regions, the beautiful Tuscan region of Chianti between Florence and Siena, near the medieval historic towns of Castellina in Chianti and Monteriggione and Sam Gimignano. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I'm trying. My Italian is a little rusty. We are headed to the Tenuta di Lilliano winery, Tenuta di Lilliano in Chianti, in Tuscany. The calling card of the winery is Chianti Classico. So we are in for a special day, a special visit to the winery and a virtual tasting. Very excited about it. Tenuta di Lilliano is in that Chianti area of Tuscany, and they run a fabulous and very heritage-based historic winery and location. They have some wonderful hospitality there on site. If you have questions during our session and tasting, please put them in the Q&A or the chat module in Zoom, and we will tackle them, hopefully on the fly. So it's my pleasure today to host our guest, Alessandro Ruspoli. He's a member of the founding family of Tenuta di Lilliano. And it's really great to have you here, Alessandro. Welcome to the broadcast.
Sam, thank you very much. I'm Alessandro, as Sam said. And yes, I'm the face of the company of Lilliano. It's been of our family from 1920. My great-grandfather, Arturo Berlingieri, bought the wine estate in 1920. It was my grandmother, Eleonora Berlingieri Ruspoli, who understood the importance to make a quality wine and bottle it. And so we came out with the first vintage in 1958.
Wow.
Then the health passed to my uncle and my father, Giulio and Pietro Ruspoli. Is actually my uncle who runs the estate, Giulio. He's been part of the consortium of Chianti Classico. He's been the president, and he's an architect. And
that's awesome. And for people watching, you see this beautiful background behind me. It's a Tuscan countryside where Tenuta di Lilliano is located. What part of Tuscany specifically, Alessandro, are we located in as we look at this? Tell us about the local area.
As you were telling, La Tenuta di Lilliano, it's close. It's 5 kilometers away from Castellina and Chianti. So we are in the heart of the Chianti Classico region. There is a difference between Chianti and Chianti Classico. The Classico, basically, it's a niche part of Chianti. It is comprised between Florence and Siena. Instead, Chianti goes north of Florence, southern to Siena, and it spreads west and east, almost to Pisa, and on the west to Arezzo. So it's a much larger territory. The Chianti Classico, it's around 70,000 hectares, and 10,000 of which are planted as vineyards, and of which 7,000 are of Sangiovese, and it's Sangiovese mainly, and the wines which comprise the Chianti Classico.
So let me ask you a question. So on that point, so we talk on the show about having our audience, because we're Americans, and we're very boring. We always drink the same wines. We drink Cabernet Sauvignon. We drink some Chardonnay, maybe a little bit of Merlot. What are the grapes that go into making Chianti Classico?
Okay, to be a Chianti Classico, it has to be 80% Sangiovese. Sangiovese is the Chianti Classico and the Chianti, the Tuscan grape. The other 20%, it can be native grapes. So we have in Castellina, we mainly have Colorino and Canaiolo. It could be even Malvasia. It can be a lot of many other native grapes. But at the same time, it can be even like international grapes. So you have like Merlot, as you were saying, Cabernet. It could be like some Syrah, whatever you want. But it can't be more than 20%. And this is another difference with Chianti. Chianti is 70% the minimum amount of Sangiovese.
That was my next question.
Sorry.
So this is a very simple American question. What is the difference between Chianti and Chianti Classico? Because we all go into the wine shop and we see the labels and Chianti or Chianti Classico. So tell us, what is that?
Well, let's say the easiest way to recognize the difference on a shelf, so on a shop, it's the black rooster. You see it on the label, well, on the neck of the bottle, in some cases on the retro label, so on the back, because you can put it like either ways. As I mentioned before, is the territory. The Chianti Classico is a niche, so it's a much smaller zone. This zone was delimited in 1716 from the Grand Duke of Tuscany, Cosimo III de' Medici. He didn't know he would have done something so big at the time, but he did give us like what is now like the DOCG. So it was those 9, which became 8 sub-regions of the Chianti Classico. Starting from north, we have San Casciano, then we have Greve, we have Radda, we have Castellino, of course, we have south Castelnuovo Berardenga, and then we have on the east side, we have even Poggibonsi and Tavernelle and Barberino, which got together.
So basically, it's not a Chianti Classico unless the Sangiovese grapes that make up the wine are from those exact areas within the Chianti Classico region. There's a specific area on the map where those grapes come from. And one assumes that that's a higher quality terroir, a better landscape for the vines and the grapes, and therefore you're drinking a higher quality wine when you drink a Chianti Classico versus just a regular Chianti.
I think like the regular Chianti is a great wine, probably like for like more a daily basis. They do have Reserva. They're introducing now even the Gran Selezione, which was something we created like in 2013, which is the top tier of the Chianti Classico DOCG. But yes, quality, I think the Chianti Classico, even if you follow, you know, like the big American wine guys like James Sackling, Monica Larner, Wine Spectator.
We call those guys the wine geeks, Alessandro.
Wine geek. Yeah, I was saying like wine buffs, but like I didn't.
And this is a show. This is a show, and this is an audience that we have that loves wine, but they're generally not wine geeks. So they've heard of James Suckling and Robert Parker, but they also this is an audience, our audience at our events and in our virtual tastings that's interested in finding a great bottle of wine that might only cost $20 or $30.
I think
It tastes like $100 bottle of wine. And that, for me, that's the holy grail, when you find that value, you know.
and I totally agree, because obviously I think, you know, like if you come out with like 90+ points or whatever, but like you can find like especially in Italy, you can find some really like good wines for under like $10 or under $20, and you don't need like those points to sell. You need the people like you to spread the voice. That's for sure.
Well, that's why I got into the wine world years ago. Was I discovered amazing wines that did not break the bank, and that's been my saying or my motto ever since. Let's show them the bottle. I don't know if we can see the rooster on this bottle. That's
no, not on this one, because
this
that's
one. Yep. So this one at the top, you see there on the neck of the bottle, which is just to my right here on the screen, there's a little circular emblem or logo, and it has a black rooster in it. And that means it's a Chianti Classico, yeah?
That means it's a Chianti Classico. There's a little story behind the black rooster. Well, the emblem of the black rooster, it was like a military league built up between Castellina, Gaiole, and Radda in the 1300 or 1400. And it's even like represented in the beautiful Palazzo Vecchio in the Salone del Cinquecento in Florence. You have like these beautiful paintings, and you have the black rooster. But like a funny story, which I always tell when I go to the US or around, it's the story of the black rooster, which is it's more of a legend. And it's when like like Siena and Florence were like rival cities, and they wanted to delimit the territory. They decided to do like a race between knights. So one knight had to go from Florence, and one had to leave from Siena. They decided to start the race with the first sing of the rooster. The funny part of the story is which like the rooster from Florence was a big black rooster. Sorry, it was a small little rooster, a black rooster, which they didn't allow him to eat for like several days. And so he was starving to death, and he started singing way before the white and big rooster from Siena. And so basically the knight started from Florence, managed to arrive like way beyond like the
because he started earlier.
Well, yes.
So that's, nowadays, so I need to starve my iPhone so it gives me a good alarm in the morning, a good early rooster alarm. That's funny. So you could see it on this. This is another bottle, everybody, of the to my right of the Chianti Classico with the black rooster emblem at the top, and yet another. So all three of the Chianti Classicos, and by the way, these are the ones we're going to be tasting virtually on the show today. They have that black rooster emblem. So when you talk about a Chianti Classico, what, in your opinion, and what in the opinion of your family, the storied family that started this winery 100 years ago, makes a great Chianti Classico?
I think like it has to be like the tradition, like it has to be in the same meaning, classic. So it has to be well balanced. It has to have like the acidity, which is important, because Sangiovese is a high acidic grape, but it has to be very well balanced. It has to be balanced with tannins, which the Sangiovese have, and it has to have a sense of violet and of ciliegia, which is cherries. These are the main, and it has to, in Lilliano, we always make the Chianti Classico, especially the Reserva and the Gran Selezione now, to be long lasting. This is because of our terroir. The terroir in the Chianti Classico region is divided in two. It's mainly Galestro, which is a rock schist, and Alberese. What we have in Lilliano, it's Alberese. Alberese, it's marley limestone. It's plenty. You can really see it in the vineyards, especially when we are building up like new vineyards. And this allows us because it gives like a long lasting, because it cools down the soil. Because when like especially like in March and April it rains, this cools down and it lasts for a very long time. And this makes the wines age worthy. And this is something like it's very characteristic, and it makes Lilliano wines always very young at the beginning, but then they last for years and years. We opened up like just a few years ago, a 1958 Lilliano, which was our first vintage.
Wow. So this is important for everyone watching. Your wines, and these are some of the wines that we're going to be virtually tasting and talking about. These Chianti Classicos are all ageable wines. You can buy them now, and they will more than likely get better with age, because there's some wines which are meant to be purchased and consumed today. But you're saying that these are wines which will improve over time.
100%.
And what's the time frame? So we're going to be tasting. What are the years on these wines we're tasting today?
So I think like the Chianti Classico is a 2016.
Yeah.
And for a Classico, like I think like the best years to drink the wine is between the 5th and the 9th. So it's lasting, but it's not like that long lasting.
So 2016 wine, drink it between 2021 and 2025.
Absolutely. I think like that's the best period, the best bracket for the Classico, because it's ready now. You can drink it now, but it will improve between the 5th and the 9th year. Instead, like the wines we will try later, the Reserve and the Gran Selezione, those are wines which 15, 20 years probably will show the best.
Wow. So a couple of the wines today are ones that they drink great right now, but they will drink even better in 5-10 years.
Absolutely.
And all right, so before we start, we're going to start tasting wines momentarily, Alessandro.
Yep.
Let's do a quick tour for everybody. So I want to show, this is a aerial photograph in my background here of the Tenuta di Lilliano location, the winery.
That's very familiar.
It looks familiar to you. This one, which we started out the broadcast with, is another shot. There are, I think you said 9 guest houses on the property, correct?
There are 10 guest houses, like farmhouses, and 2 share there are 12 in total. Of buildings, like farmhouses wise, there are 10.
And when we're like this building behind me, when was this? What year was it built?
This we have like some very old drawings. Like basically like we have a drawing on a book of the Lilliano villa, which if you go back, I'll show you which one it is. Well, I can't point it. No, the one with like the arrow shot. You see just behind your head. You see like there's a church, and then there's a big house, and that's the main villa of Lilliano. Lilliano goes back to the Middle Ages, and there is a map. It was a different shape, but it had only 2 stories, so 2 floors and a tower. Then like
so this is almost 1,000 years old, yeah?
Yes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and because like Siena and Florence were always fighting each other, and there were like different strongholds, which you mentioned before, Monteriggioni, Castellina itself, Staggia, just around us.
And Gimignano.
San Gimignano, it's a little bit further down, but like it's half an hour away. The shape of the house changed in the years, and I have to say, even like during the World War II, the villa was occupied and then bombed and freed.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's take a look. Also, a couple of other shots. I mean, they're beautiful. These are, by the way, for anybody interested in when we're back on normal times, we're not on quarantine. For anybody interested in visiting, you can come and stay here on the property in one of the 10 or 12 guest houses. Yeah,
Absolutely, it's on a weekly basis, and
it's
we
beautiful.
are
I mean,
we are eager to have you all back.
look at these pictures. I'm going to get out of the way of this one a little bit. I mean, this is a gorgeous shot of
This
the
Monte Sperto.
pool. Yeah, great, awesome visuals. And then, of course, inside the winery, you have some beautiful hospitality, some bottles. This is I think you said the original barrel room at the winery, yeah?
Yes, basically we have two cellars in Lilliano. We have the old original cellar, which was like right beneath the main villa, and then what we call like the new cellar, which was built from my grandmother Eleonora Berlingieri in 1976. So basically, the original cellar, the historical cellar, which is the one you can see on your back, which has like these botti grandi, as we call them,
What
big
we
barrels,
call large format barrels.
large format barrels, 28 and 34 hectoliters. And on the back of your head, there's that on the back, those are all bottles, and they're like well, we have like a few 1958 bottles and a few more other old vintages like 61 and so on.
And that's where you got the 1958 bottle that you said you guys just had.
Well, we have some over there and some which are stored like more carefully in the.
You know, people
Yeah,
don't realize it takes a lot of work to maintain those old bottles in storage. All right, well, let's get to tasting. I think we're going to start with the Chianti Classico. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the way to start.
So let's tell us about this wine, Alessandro. How much does it retail for? And what kinds of foods do you pair it with when you open a bottle at home?
Absolutely. I have it over here.
Excellent.
And this retails at $17.99.
Very reasonable.
It's very reasonable. I think it's this is our cornerstone. It's the one which we produce the most. It's we produce almost 100,000 bottles, and well, obviously, like like Italian wines are always like very easy to match with food, and we always like suggest to match with some cheese and some game. But I think the Clasico, the best matches are a simple plate of pasta. It can be with like tomato sauce or some like really light ragu, which could be like hare ragu, which is delicious. Something which we have on property, and even a pizza would probably show very well. It's so
it's a medium body.
It's a medium body. It's compared to maybe other Chianti Classico. This one is a bit more masculine than feminine. It's already like something like medium-bodied.
It packs a punch. It's got some structure to it.
Exactly, it has some structure. As I was mentioning before, it does have like some nice balance and with the acidity. and it has some very nice red notes of I was mentioning before, like cherries, but it has even some lamponi. Lamponi, it's red berries. I think it's red berries. It's like the black currant, but it's red.
Yep, yep. Well, so this one is a great one to start with. And everybody, this is the Chianti Classico. This is the mainstay of Tenuta di Lilliano's portfolio that they send to the US. You can buy this wine, correct me if I'm wrong, Alessandro, at the Heights Chateau, which is a wine shop in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Yeah, do they have an online shop? So we have people watching all over the country right now, Alessandro. Can people order from Heights Chateau online and have it sent?
Absolutely. Yes, you can go on the website and you go on inventory and you can find Lilliano wines. The Chianti Classico, it's $17.99, I remember. And I think there's like some discounts on quantities, like 10% on 6 bottles, 15% on 12.
Okay, great. All right, what's the next wine we're going to taste?
I would go for the Reserva, which is the second of the tier.
And what's the retail price on this one?
This is $29.99.
29. So this falls right into my sweet spot. I'm looking for a great wine that might sell for 29 but tastes like 129.
Well, yes, I think the Chianti Classico, it's an easier wine to drink. I think it's terrific for the price. But then when you step forwards with the Reserve and the Gran Selezione, these are for sure like longer lasting wines. There's much more complexity because the main difference we didn't say about the blend. The Chianti Classico, it's a blend 90% Sangiovese and 10% of complementary grapes, which are mainly Colorino, and we used to put Canaiolo, but we don't have it anymore, and we are regrafting it this year. So it's Merlot at the time being. But like the Reserva 2015 is 100% Sangiovese, and it's aged for like Reserva has to age for 2 years, of which 15 months in those large casks you've seen before.
And are they new casks, new barrels always, or are they not?
No, those barrels are actually like they have like 15, 20 years.
Is that right? Yeah.
Well, now we just bought a new one because obviously we have to replenish and change from time to time. But we try never to be too big on oak.
So one thing I want to point out here is that Alessandro was just talking about some of the other grapes in the first Chianti Classico, which was, I think you said, Colorino and Caraiolo.
Yes,
it's important for me, again, and this is my mission as a wine person in life, to talk about the fact that in Italy, for example, over 1,000 grape types and varietals in Italy alone. So everybody's heard of Sangiovese. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but many people have. But most people never heard of Colorino.
Yes.
Caraiolo.
Colorino, basically, from the name itself, it means color. So basically, it was a perfect fit as a blend with the Sangiovese, because Sangiovese back in the days, because now it's even changed because we found different clones which are even a little bit like darker, but it was a very pale, almost Pinot
Noir. Right, it was very light colored.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then there's been like a boom like in the 80s and 90s to make it like a little darker, because God knows why we needed like a darker Sangiovese. And so like we introduced Colorino, we introduced Canaiolo and Malvasia Nera and many different varietals. Then in the 90s, the Merlot kicked in. But what we are doing now is we are pointing on Merlot for our Super Tuscans, or what we call them IGT, table wines. And we are trying to take out the Merlot from our Clásicos because we're very traditional. So even like a 5%, we don't like to say. And that's why we went for 100% with the Reserva and the Gran Selezione.
Right. So to bring it back to the Reserva, this bottle here is 100% Sangiovese grapes from the Chianti Classico area, obviously, which is where Lilliano is. Tell us about the tasting notes and what's a perfect dish or food to pair with this wine.
Well, the Reserva obviously has much more complexities, while the Chianti Classico has more like red notes, so like red berries, cherries, and these kinds of notes. The Reserva has a much more complex aroma on the nose and on the palate. It seems like to dive into a dark forest. So it's not only red berries, but even
That's great.
it's even like black currants, and then there's like some licorice and tobacco notes.
I love it. I love it. But diving into a dark forest. This is the tasty. That's the first time I've heard that tasty note. I think it's brilliant. I love it. I'm going to use it for future tastings. And
thank you.
So now a little bit. This one is a little bit more of a special occasion wine. Maybe not an everyday wine. What's a great food to pair with this one? Is diving into a black forest tasting notes pairs with what food?
Well, the Reserve and the Gran Selezione, both of them, I think they really like the perfect fit, the perfect match. It's with like some game, even better from the zone of Chianti Classico and Lilliano.
So maybe venison.
Venison would be like a great match.
Okay. And what about, we Americans love our steak and our beef.
Well, what
about that?
That's where I wanted to go. I love American steaks, and Tony knows as well. When I come to New York, it's burgers, steak, or not much else. The first things I want to try. And in Tuscany we have the bistecca alla Fiorentina, and that's another steak, and it's just perfect. It's what I like.
So this one and the Gran Selezione are great for steak. So that's awesome. So this one is $29. Still very, very affordable, very reasonable. Let's move on to the third one, which is the Gran Selezione.
The Gran Selezione, the Gran Selezione as well, it's nowadays with like the vintage 2016, it's 100% Sangiovese, but in 2015, it was actually a blend. It was a 95% Sangiovese and 5% of Merlot, and it was aged, difference with the Reserva, the Gran Selezione has to be aged for another like six months, more than the Reserva.
This one is aged in barrels at the winery for 2.5 years minimum.
It's aged for 2 years and a half, of which in barrels for like 15 months.
15 months. The other time is in tanks. And what's the retail price on this one, Alessandro?
This, I think, I'm not sure it's currently at
Chateau.
At Chateau, but I think the price it's around $35–40.
So a little bit more than the Reserva, but still doable and great as a selection for special occasion. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Now you have a fourth wine.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but I'm going to say Anagallis.
Yes, basically like at Lilliano we do two Super Tuscans, like two IGT. One is the Anagallis, and the other one is the Vigna Catena. Vigna Catena is actually it's 100% Merlot, which is an outstanding wine which we produce very little and in just in very particular vintages. So the last vintage was 2010. I'm trying to convince at the estate we have to redo it because it is terrific, even if, you know, Merlot.
And do you grow the Merlot grapes there on the property, or do you bring the fruit in?
Oh no, at Lilliano we don't buy grapes.
So you're 100% estate winery, meaning that the wines are made from the grapes on the property.
Absolutely. All from the property, and we planted Merlot at the end of the years 80s and beginning of 90s, and we have like 3 or 4 hectares now.
So that's perfect timing because it takes like 15, 20 years for the vines to really
it takes some time. They have like 20, 25 years.
Let's just show everybody a little fun picture. Here's a shot of some of the vineyard there at Lilliano. And
so this is like, obviously, like you can see, it's like during the harvest. It was around like it's a shot of like a few years ago, at the end of September, and this is actually like it's funny because this is it's a vineyard which my uncle decided to go above the schemes and to plant in, like heading north. So like most of the vineyards in Lilliano, they're heading like south, southeast, some maybe south, southwest, but like this actually is planted north, northeast. And it was a decision of my uncle who said like, you know, climate is changing, let me try like 1 or 2 hectares with a different exposure. And it's showing very well, actually.
That's great. So tell us about the last wine we have here is the Anagallis. There it is, right there to my right. So what
you spell it right. The
Anagallis all about? What's this wine?
So basically, Anagallis, like, well, first of all, the name Anagallis is a flower. It's a flower which grows in Tuscany, and it's now like at the time, like my uncle decided that the name. He was going around the estate, and like a friend of his like said, "Oh, look, an Anagallis," and my uncle like started like looking around and saying, "What is it? Like, is it an animal, an insect, a plant, bird?" And this friend says, "Oh, no, look, it's a little flower," and it was like an orange flower from the Anagalli family. So like a few years later, my uncle remembered a little story, and he decided to pick the name and call the wine. Anagallis is a blend. It started as a blend, 50% Sangiovese and 50% Colorino back in the 80s or end of the 80s. And then we introduced the Merlot in the 90s when we planted Merlot. We introduced Merlot, and it was 80% Sangiovese and 20% Merlot. And then like in the last 5 years, we switched things around, and we decided to point on a totally different wine, a Bordeaux blend, and it's 50% Cabernet, 40% Merlot, and 10% Petit Verdot.
Wow. So this is a very different wine than the other 3.
This is a very different wine. It's a bolder wine. It's a rounder wine. This actually ages like for 14 to 18 months in oak, in barriques. So this is the only wine which with the Vigna Catena which goes in barrique, because the other go well in the large cask or in tonneau.
And so when will I know this one is not yet available in the US. When will it be available here for us to
Well, it is available in the US, but not in New York.
Not in New York. Okay.
Our distributor importer Vos Vinum and distributor Eno Classica. They're not carrying it yet, but like we are.
You're working on it.
With Tony, we are working on it.
Excellent. All right, so today we tasted the Chianti Classico. That's available at the Heights Chateau in Brooklyn, this wine shop, Heights Chateau. The Chianti Classico Riserva, which may or may not be available right now at Heights Chateau.
No, the Riserva, it's available, and
Okay.
it's $29.99.
Got it. So that one's it's the Gran Selezione, which is not
The
necessarily.
Celestion, which probably like we're out of stock, and we'll introduce it back shortly.
And so for anybody watching, it's heightschateau.com. Heightschateau.com. It's a wine shop, a very good wine shop in Brooklyn, in New York. And they do have a website you can buy. If you're not based in New York, they will ship to you these beautiful Lilliano wines. I want to thank you, Alessandro, for being part of the broadcast today, and for also being the first Italian winery where we have taken day trip to wine country virtually.
Oh, great! I'm super happy. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and hope to come soon and to meet in person in New York.
Absolutely. Well, we'll give everybody a final shot of this beautiful Tuscan countryside. We're all dreaming Tuscan dreams right now, and we're looking forward to visiting hopefully soon.
You're most welcome to come and visit, you and all your hosts.
It sounds like a fun place to come and stay for a week, drink some wine, eat some food, see the wine making operation, but also travel locally around the area.
Oh yeah, it's worth coming. There's plenty to see.
Excellent. All right, Alessandro, thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Buonasera. It's nighttime there in Italy, and we will see you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, Sam. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.